In this video, let's talk about what would have been new to the AFL before the collective bargaining agreement passed. Obviously, if you can tell by the poll that's been on the website, it looks like it's a good consensus that we want to get away from league safe. The 21st century has given us so many more methods of payment. We've come a long way from when we used to have to mail my brother, the AFL treasurer, paper checks in the mail. So whenever we figure out what we're going to do with our payment, let's use some kind of electronic payment option. I will provide my my Venmo or Apple Pay, PayPal, Zelle, Bitcoin, Ethereum, any cryptocurrency. I can put my addresses on here. So let's just go about that route and let's get away from league safe so we can all have 100% of our monies returned to us. The second big change that I want to do is I want to start limiting our future draft picks in trading. So traditionally, we've always been able to trade away future draft picks up to 5 years in advance. However, that number was always arbitrary. So again, with my age-old adage, how does the NFL handle this situation? Well, technically, they don't put a limit on how many years out you can trade draft picks. However, there is a functional limit for how far they trade out in the future. So basically, I did some research and I went back through every trade back to January 30th of 2018. And there's not been one trade in the NFL where they traded a draft pick 4 or 5 years in advance. So even then, the 3 years in advance, there were only 4 picks traded out that were 3 years in advance, and 2 of them were in the same trade. So it's extremely rare that the NFL trades even beyond 2 years out. However, they on occasion do trade 3 years out. So we're going to start limiting that. For this year, you can trade out up to 4 years in advance instead of 5. And then next year, we're going to drop that down to 3. So hopefully, if we can finally limit over the course of the next 2 years those absolutely lopsided trades where an owner trades 4 or 5 picks that are way in the future, for a player now. So anyway, that creates a completely imbalanced competitive playing field. If somebody, again, 5 years from now can get 4 or 5 picks, all for a player that he traded away 5 years ago, it's just completely stupid. So if that is your trading style, that is now going to be nerfed a little bit. Also, we are going to go back to determining those tag prices in week 1 so we can prevent those Tom Brady type situations that happened last year. I don't want to get into too much detail, but basically I made a mistake one year and I forgot to get a snapshot of all of the week 1 salaries that used to determine the tag prices, and then I just started doing it in week 16, and we really didn't have an issue until last year where I made an executive decision that I had plenty of cap space, so I bid a ridiculous amount on Tom Brady, basically just to get him off the board so that nobody would bid him up going into the playoff run. And then again, since I had been calculating those tag prices in week 16, that could have potentially completely offset those prices. So from now on, we will just be doing those tag prices in year 1. So finally, the last thing I wanted to change up was to start to randomize the schedule. I've wanted to do this a long time, and I know you guys have, it's kind of the same boring schedule year after year. But I wanted to wait until a nice, solid, round, even decade to start it. It'll just be easier to keep track of. So starting this year, we're going to randomize the schedules. If you don't know, just in summary, there is a bit of a formula to our schedule. Obviously, I have what we call those A weeks, where you play the teams in your division twice. So that's 6 games, weeks 1, 2, and 3, and then 10, 11, and 12. And then there's what we call the B weeks, which is typically weeks 4 and 5, where you play another team in the other conference, or you play 2 games in the other conference, and those rotate, and so on and so forth. So typically all of those games are just broken down into weeks 1 through 12, and I'm just going to put those weeks into a randomizer, in an online randomizer, and then just get the weeks in a new random order. Also, this is going to segue now into the next video, but in 2021, the NFL is moving to a 17-game schedule. So that will allow us to have a 13-game regular season and keep our playoffs the same, which we will be adopting the new NFL format. There's a teaser for the next video. Anyway, so hopefully that will help shake up the league, get a different schedule in there every year, and it'll be random. So let's get right into the next video on the new collective bargaining agreement.